Good evening. If you've just joined us, this is Africa News Network First Fast Live. The ANC support in the Metsumaholo municipality showed significant losses and experienced stiff competition from its alliance partner, the SACP, as it fought its first election alone. Now, while the ANC won all the wards, a drill down in the results showed significant percentage losses for the party, while the SACP showed significant influence among the voters. Analysts asked whether the SACP would fail this crucial litmus test. But as a newcomer, albeit with a long political track record, it did surprisingly well. The by-elections came after a former coalition between the DA, the EFF, and the Freedom Front Plus, and the Metsumaholo Civic Organization or Association dissolved after the mayor from the MCA defeated the ANC. Now, one ward reportedly will need to rerun the by-election after the wrong ballot papers were sent there. The SACP had earlier said the by-elections were rigged. However, no official complaint has been laid. The results of these by-elections were highly anticipated and crucial for a variety of reasons. For the ANC, it was almost a prestige test, or whether they can win back the municipality from the DA. For the SACP, the by-elections result is an indicator of how the party is received on the ground. And for the Democratic Alliance, it's been a long-drawn test. It's a coalition, a formula through which it had originally managed to come to power. And for the EFF, this is crucial in that many votes that it could retain in these local polls. Wow, it's really a mouthful, quite a congested poll there. Let's speak to Kim Heller, who is a political analyst, and Silo Peterson, ANC Youth League Free State spokesperson, will join us in a bit. Kim, thanks so much for joining us, my queen. Wow, the SACP really coming up surprisingly strong. Is this their attempt, in your view, to dismantle the control of the ANC, or to test whether they have what it takes to contest the 2019 elections?
Thank you, Cindy. I think they surprised us all by a better than anticipated showing. And what they're going to do with that result, we'll all have to see. Because of recent times, they have certainly, despite being an alliance partner, have not been a friend to the ANC. And in fact, they've behaved a lot more like an opposition party. But I think their small victory today, I don't think is going to amount to much, because I think we're set for a coalition between the EFF and DA and possibly the Freedom Front, because I think that would take them to the majority in the municipality. So I think once again we are set for a gifting from the EFF to the DA, a white-controlled and white-run DA, of yet another area, crucial area in this country.
Yeah, but the infighting and the factions within the ANC also giving the opposition parties a leeway and eroding its own voter base. Is that what you've observed?
Well, absolutely, and I think your point is very salient. And I think we mustn't sugarcoat what happened in the by-election today. In fact, it goes against the trend that we've seen in the last year, where the ANC has done very well in by-elections. And in fact, there's been a resurgence of support and voter interest in the ANC. But I think the ANC must take out some lessons today and look at itself very decisively and very frankly. First of all, its reduced performance, which has been a trend over the last elections in that area, needs to be noted. And I think there's also a very low voter turnout. I think figures are showing about 45%. And that to me is an indictment of a governing party and of political parties in general losing touch with the electorate. And I think it's time for the ANC to rekindle a love affair with ordinary people in this country, because it's losing. I think the second point that comes out today is that the infighting in the ANC is probably its biggest enemy at the moment. I mean, I've just said that the trend of by-elections has been positive for the ANC across all provinces of this country. But if we look at what happened today in Free State, and if we look at what happened in KwaZulu, these are the provinces where the ANC is actually tearing itself apart. We have seen quite poor performances. And I think the ANC needs to have a very frank look at how its internal dynamics are affecting the party. And that does include its very strained relationship with the SACP, who who may now side with the opposition, although I don't believe that vote is going to make much of a difference. But I think I think it's time for reflection of the ANC, especially ahead of 2019.
Yeah, could this be a warning, though, of the intent of the SACP, as they said they would go it alone in 2019, that they're testing the waters and they ought to be taken seriously? Another 2-3 years could make a huge difference.
I don't think they ultimately will have the organic support. It's like the EFF and it's like COPE. They have actually not managed to sustain support. So I think for now the SACP has bitten into the ANC support. I think it's a novelty factor that's probably going to wear off. And but I suppose we have to look at the ANC cannibalizing its own support, although it's now going to its alliance partner. The interesting thing is that in the ANC losing estimated 10 or so %, that has gone to the SACP. It hasn't gone to any of the opposition parties, and that's very, very telling. The thing to me that is most against the ANC at the moment is the apathy we're seeing in the electorate, because with most people staying away from those polls, that to me is the biggest opposition party for the ANC. So to win back voters, to make voters active citizens in this voting process again for the ANC is their biggest task, actually.
Yeah, but what does it mean, though, to try and restore relations within its strategic alliance partner when it's been indicated clearly now that the SACP does have some sympathy, albeit in this one municipality?
Well, I think that the SACP has been the one who has fractured the relationship with the ANC rather than the other way around. Yet the ANC is seen as the aggressor. It's the SACP that has joined forces with opposition party and opposition voices against the ANC. So I don't think it's the ANC who has pushed the SACP away, but certainly it is a risk. And the enemy is within. I don't think that all the opposition parties collectively will take down the ANC, but the danger is within. So to keep the alliance partners happy is critical, but at the same time to reach out to the electorate and have real, genuine conversations with the electorate to bring the people back to the ANC and the ANC back to the people, I think is probably the most critical discourse that the ANC could be having at this juncture.
But in the interest of democracy, it also encourages other parties, new players, and if voters want to make that choice, that it is at their disposal. But it's critical, again, as you're saying, it's easier to retain friendship than, having to start a new relationship. They would know the ANC intricately, they know what the ANC's weaknesses are, and therefore would be able to use that in pursuing voters to go with them instead.
Well, I think the SACP, which sets itself up as the beacon of worker interests, I think needs to assess what that means at the moment. Because by working with opposition and largely white parties, what kind of message is it sending out? So perhaps both the ANC and SACP need to look at restoring their core values as per their original mandate and mission. But, we speak about democracy, but what kind of democracy are we getting? Because we have a situation now in this municipality where the DA hasn't actually garnered the largest share of support, yet it may well come into the municipality and rule by virtue, once again, of the EFF supporting and lending its support to this party, which I still describe as a party of white supremacy. So are the people in that area getting the government and the municipality and the governance that they actually asked for? I don't think so. So I think we speak a lot about this. We celebrate coalition politics, but what does it really mean? We've seen it being chaotic and being a government of conflict and disorder. So I think before we celebrate any coalition politics and democracy, we need to ask what is the flavor of that and what are the people getting. I don't believe they're getting what they voted for.
So you're talking about a voter fatigue in a sense that all these manifestos and ideologies and whatever it is, political parties have been promising that, essentially if there is no material difference in the quality of life that people experience in those areas, it doesn't mean much. And therefore maybe going back to your point of a low voter turnout.
Yes, I think apathy is the biggest enemy of democracy at the moment. And I think the SACP were quite vocal on saying that the ANC hasn't been delivering services in that area. And I think the best thing the ANC could do, if it is truly committed to the people of that area, is to look and see what their record of service delivery is like. and engage frankly and honestly with the people in that area, because the relationship is not at a maximum level. And this does not bode well for 2019. And I'm sure that the SACP and other alliance partners is going to use this as a symbolic gesture of their potential support in 2019. I personally believe it's being over-exaggerated at the moment, but it's a time of great fanfare and gesturing in politics, especially ahead of the December conference.
Yeah.
So,
let's look at the role of the Metsumaholo Civic Association in this regard. We heard Dr. Makhosi Khoza also speaking of, not particularly a political party, but a formation of sorts, and involving communities and related organizations. How critical are these as being kingmakers, so to speak?
Well, I think obviously her endorsement didn't do very much today, and she's probably not having a very good evening because it didn't help this young party. I think her new party looks like it's going to be an all assortment of licorice, all sorts of people. And I think that's the very problem that we have in coalition parties and coalition governments and municipalities, because we're not really sure what the ideological underpin, what the policy underpin is. And I think that's where the ANC is so superior, because it's got a very defined policy framework. And hopefully the SACP can make its way back to supporting this party, which I think is solid rather than opportunistic in these situations.
I mean, let's go back to service delivery, because what is critical and what tends to suffer in the contestation of who wins a by-election or national polls, etc., is the quality of life of residents. And the SACP perhaps being genuine, if we will, in wanting to raise that particular concern as opposed to wanting to topple the ANC, as it were.
Yes. If they are genuine, I think everybody, irrespective of our political affiliation, would get fully behind them. But what we've seen often is key political projects and service delivery actually being paralyzed by these coalition formations, because people can't agree, and we've got this abundance of egos and abundance of conflicts and positioning and gesturing for positioning that seems to be at the forefront of people's agendas rather than the concerns of residents. So let's see if the SACP can make this call for service delivery more than just a slogan or easy political talking point.
But all the other smaller parties still have their work cut out for you. As you're saying, the dominance of the ANC in these areas is still prevalent.
Yes, certainly. And I think that's going to continue. I think that pattern of dominance isn't going to be altered. And I think even if we put all the opposition parties together in one bundle, they're still going to come a close second to the ANC in 2019. However, the ANC must not relax, because there has been a gradual decline of support in critical areas, and that must be managed, not through spin doctoring or sugarcoating, but through real delivery and engagement with people. And I've said so many times, I think there's a need for greater dialogue with ordinary people in this country. And I think if there's one lesson they should be taking out of this, I'm hoping it's that.
Okay, my queen, we're going to have to leave it there. Lovely sharing this platform with you. Kim Heller is a political analyst and commentator with The New Age, and you can follow her commentary on our sister publication. Thanks indeed, Kim.